All right. Would you please state your name as well as your age and how long you've been married?
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, see if you get this right.
Okay, my name is Larry Johnson. I've been married for 25 years. I'm 65.
My name is Ife Johnson. I've been married for 25 years and I'm 60.
All right. Uh, this interview will be conducted with a series of questions based on relationships, religion, and social issues to give you guys a heads up. All
Okay.
right,
Okay.
let's begin. The first question. Most couples say they are married because they love their spouse. What do you think love is?
Want me to go first?
I
Um,
mean, go ahead.
I think love is probably best defined in Corinthians, where it talks about love being patient and kind and hoping for the best in all things and tolerating and and giving and sharing. I think love is being willing to sacrifice for the other, wanting the best for that person, sometimes even more so than yourself. Um, it's it's going above and beyond for someone, um, someone who is willing to provide what they can for you. Um, it's it's something that gives you great joy, and sometimes great sorrow. Um, it's it's a commitment. It's something that you decide that is willing to work to have. Um, it's not always the fluff and the flowers and the music. It's sometimes getting through the nitty gritty and being there for each other as you go through that. Yes, that's Larry.
Uh, Ditto on all the above. But notwithstanding that, um, I guess I'm reiterating and echoing, you know, the you know some of the key characteristics of love, and one of the key characteristics, certainly from a Christian Judeo perspective, is that it is selfless. It is a form of selflessness. It is characterized by selflessness. Um, it doesn't have it doesn't necessarily have a expectation of I guess reciprocity, or having, you know, necessarily what you give is necessarily reciprocated. It does have an emotional as well as spiritual component to it. Okay, that's certainly borne out in all the scientific studies that brain waves change, you know, and so forth. Uh, but I think that those are some of the initial components of being attracted to a person. But when we start talking about, you know, love, uh, you know, the Bible talks in the context of a covenant relationship. It is a conscious act of choosing to, you know, to be with an individual. Um, so, I mean, that's kind of the way I see it.
All right. What will make love uh, last and help create successful marriages and stable marriages?
You,
Well, I'll go first. I, I think it's all those components that we talked about, you know, you. It's not that you suppress who you are, but there is a greater good, okay, connected with the couple unifying to achieve common goals, to include a common goal of just staying together. And so, as part of those characteristics of selflessness, etc., I think your willingness to, support the other, you're willing to support each other, um, where sometimes it just doesn't make any sense. Um, and I think that um, being honest, or certainly at least authentic in your communication, where I'm communicating, okay, to be, I'm never communicating uh, to put you down. All the things that there are always those components of selfishness because you're human, but you're constantly working, with God's help, you're constantly working at seeing the best in that person, even when they piss you off. Okay? But it's legitimate to say, oh, you've pissed me off today. Okay? And then trying to achieve some form of authentic communication, okay, to resolve disputes, um, to again achieve common goals, and it's just really a constant approaches to effectively seeing each other, and as well as communicating with each other. And I'll just leave it at that.
Well, what makes it last? Commitment, I think, is a major component that you actually decide to stay. It was always a big deal to me to feel secure in what we've decided to do. Um, that I never wake up any morning wondering whether or not if I leave the toothpaste tube open, or the salt shaker's on the wrong cabinet,
Or wash the dishes or clean up your stuff.
yeah, the shoes in the middle of the floor. But those are not going to be um, reasons for divorce. That we've decided that we want to be together, and that we've made a commitment to that. We don't walk on eggshells because of that, and that's a very good feeling, not walking on eggshells. But I can say something stupid, and your dad will still be there and still love me, and that sort of. Um, there's there's um, there's the element of trust, and having lived a good part of our early marriage apart, that was a major component for us. That we both knew that we could trust the other person with our heart, and that we would be true to our vows. That I didn't have to wonder about, you know, what he was going to be doing, or he didn't have to wonder about where I was going to be, or who I was going to be with, or any of that. We actually took our vows seriously, and we trust each other. Um, I think there's a component of communication. We do a lot of that, um, and some laughter. There's got to be some days when you just laugh at all the mess that's there. I think people need to really understand that the vows talk about for richer and poorer, and sickness and health, and for better and for worse. That you're going to have all of those things in a marriage, and a lot of folks are there for the richer and for the better and for the health part. But when your spouse is sick, or you're the one who's sick, it's nice to know that that person's still there, and you're still there for them. And when tough times come, because tough times promise to come, that we'll still be together. And when it's the worst of times, or money's not flowing the way you want it to flow, that is that's not the reason to leave. Um, I think all of those things are important, and having an underpinning of faith, someone that you can pray with when times get kind of tough, and you feel like, this is hard, having someone that you can go to God and get on your knees with them and feel like you've got the foundation to see you through. I think all of those are important components. And, but most importantly is making that commitment. I'm going to be there for you. I'm going to be there until you die. I'm going to be there. And I I can't think of anything short of death right now that would be a reason for us to leave each other.
All right. Can you guys give me an example of how your love has made your marriage successful, stable, and lasting, as well as some principles that you guys use to help?
I'll go first. I'll go first. Anyway. One of the things I can definitely say is this man has literally saved my life on at least 3 or 4 occasions. um, there have been times, uh, literally, when my health was at a point where I could have died and probably would have died had things been different by just a little bit. But Larry was there, and Larry was my knight in shining armor. He's been there, and he's protected me, and he's comforted me when I was brokenhearted, when I had great joys. He was there to celebrate with me. Um, when I was afraid, he was there to make me feel safe and wanted and loved. And he has looked at me with those eyes that says that I'm still beautiful in his eyes, even though we've all, gotten old and wrinkled. Um, and he's worked hard to be healthy for me, to stay with me, not to leave me. On the flip side, he's a person I love. He's a joy, and I enjoy bringing him joy. I enjoy seeing his little smirky laugh and his little military ways. And he's been the most wonderful husband and a great father. We don't always agree on things. We fuss and we argue and disagree about a lot of stuff. But we can do that and still be together. And I guess that's just uh, just an inkling of the many things and the many reasons why I love that man and want to stay with him.
I need you to restate the question again. It's not that I checked out, but I just need you to restate it.
Basically, can you give me an example of how, from the previous questions, you two have created a successful, stable, and healthy relationship?
Some examples. Okay, not being cynical, I think an example is we're still together, and we still find ways of, a mutual understanding, love, support. It's not contrived, it's not controlled. Um, I mean, you're where you really want to be, and the word, you're where you want to be, and you're there, and you do all of those things required to stay there without, I guess, entering into martyrdom of your own personality. Um, and I think that's really critical. And so, yeah, I'll leave it at that. You do what and this is certainly from a masculine point of view. And so, I've done the things required from my viewpoint of demonstrating and implementing good headship. And that doesn't mean subjugation or draconian approach in our relationship, but being worthy of her submission to me as husband, which which does not refer to her submission of herself and her being. So I've got to give her a reason to want to stay, and that's not necessarily doesn't necessarily constitute, oh, let me give you, take this materialistic viewpoint, but that's also from a spiritual point of view as well as a physical point of view, okay, and a mental point of view. Let me, let me do the things, let me do the things for you that'll validate and substantiate, why I care for you, why I love you, why I want to remain with you. So, okay, that's my answer.
All right. And to top off this first question, I know both of you had been
Was
in.
that the first question?
Yeah, this is still just the first question. I know both of you had been in previous.
Well,
So compared to your previous
we're
marriage,
running out of time, dude.
all right. Compared to your previous marriages, how did this one compare? Like, how was the love different? Why was it unsuccessful?
Oh, there's there's no comparison. First time around for me, there was a lot of infatuation, a lot of feel good stuff, but when it came time for um, a real relationship, as I used to say, the thing that we had both most in common is that we both loved him best, um, and that left me in a situation where I was always walking on eggshells, where anything was a reason for um, a breakup and a problem, where I felt subjugated, where um, my wants and my desires and things, my goals and ambitions were all secondary or tertiary, actually. Um, the things that he saw as important in his life. And none of those things worked really well. Uh, and he listened to everyone else about what our relationship should be, except us. Um, Larry is is a point of security for me. Um, I really know he's going to be there. I really know I trust him. I really know he loves me. I really know I love him. I really know there's a joy in being with him. I know we have a firm foundation together, that's spiritual and mental and emotional. And he's a great leader. All of the above.
Um, I mean, it's a cliche that there's a difference between, day and night. Are you there, Kamal?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Well, anyway, uh, the difference between my first marriage and this marriage is I absolutely didn't know what I was doing. Okay, period. Specifically, talking in terms of my duties and responsibilities as husband, lover, friend, etc. And it doesn't take, but I didn't understand, notwithstanding any issues that, with the other person, I didn't understand what it was. And I didn't take the time to be not just reflective, but to be taught, to be tutored, to be mentored. And it was only taking a second because there were so many signs that that really wasn't the place to be. And if I had just stopped and taken a deep breath and just first looked at me and where I was and what I was, why did I need to do this with this person? And I didn't do that. I didn't have that conversation or the conversations that I had with your mother's father, okay, and other men around me, to include my own father, okay, about okay, what is it about this person, that you want to really be with them the rest of your life, et cetera, et cetera. My first marriage, it was impetuous. It felt, the person was controlling, and I discovered later had some really serious issues that I was not able and capable to deal with. I didn't understand what was in front of me. And so, but as Ife has already indicated, that I know that she'll be there. Okay, and not because someone is forcing her to be there, but because she wants to be there with me. And I didn't have any of that. I was in actual career competition with my first wife. She was envious and jealous of me, but that was some of those issues that she had that I discovered later were there. It wasn't an honest relationship, and as honest as people can be, but it started off with lies, and it just went downhill from there. And I just really wasn't mature enough to deal with the things that were in front of me. And maturity is not necessarily an age, okay? And I didn't really have the kind of spiritual foundation that I had by the time I met your mother that would have given me some perspective and answers. And I just didn't have the toolkit to pull from. I didn't have, and the support that I had or would have had to steer me in a better direction. I wasn't listening. I mean, that's what my father said. He was right. If you come to me and say, "Oh, I love this person, and I really want to be with that person," and there's nothing you can say about that person that'll have me not do that, then there's nothing for anybody else to say to you. So I really didn't place myself to be open for examination. And I think in a good, healthy family group, I think being open to examination about lifelong commitments like that is important. Anyway, and so the question for you is, are you open to examination? There's something for you to think about as you move forward. Because, as my father said, if it can stand the light of day, then it's okay.
All right.
That's my answer. Now, how much longer do we have to go? Because, see, now you're on my work time.
Yeah. Next question. What do you think about...
How many more do we have to do?
like 3.
Well, what we can do, let's go as far as we can. When you need to hop off, then we'll...
I need to probably hop off now, because this has been like 40 minutes as I embarked upon this process.
Okay, well then, do you want to continue this evening?
Yeah, I have to do it this evening.
Okay. Yeah. You want to try and get in one last question?
If you allow me to.
Yeah, okay. I'll go ahead.
All right. What do you think about cohabitation, single parenthood, and illegitimacy in American communities? For example, the problem of violence in teenage pregnancies are beginning to manifest themselves in a kind of nihilistic destruction in the ghetto that is reflective of lost hope, low self-esteem, and the breakdown of the family.
That's huge. That's a huge open-ended question. That's a lot of stuff embedded in there. I mean, that's a question that talks to, whether or not we have community and what the values are of the community. Um, I mean, uh, I'm always, I know that in some Western countries, let's say for instance England, the rate of marriage has gone down and cohabitation has gone up. And I guess from several, well, it's more than just about cohabitation. It's about my willingness to make a commitment uh, to you from a Christian Judeo perspective and as well as a legal perspective. And so I think that sometimes within the context of everyday people cohabitating, I don't really end up having to make that commitment that includes life, body, limb, money, and everything else. But I think a formalized marriage arrangement, you know, a confidential relationship always says that I'm really, 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 really serious about being with this person. And I'm willing to put everything on the line to be with that person. And so the level of commitment, I don't think, is nearly as great in just simple in cohabitation. That doesn't mean that it can't be, but I'm saying in general. And reference all that other stuff with respect to crime and self-esteem issues. It's built within the larger context of the society. Much of that starts at home, and that's just, now this is a gross generalization. This is a real super gross generalization, but we communicate to each other first in the family unit about who we are and what we stand for, and then that translates in with community values, and the values of the group are translated in family. And when you don't have that component to be able to translate morals and values, that includes issues of self-esteem, okay, or you can corrupt what you know, you can actually corrupt it in family. I don't know. I mean, that's such a huge question, but I think it's I don't know. Help me out, Ife. I think that's really a broad question.
It is, and
That's really overly broad.
well, one of the things I immediately took offense to is the idea of illegitimacy. I don't think there's such a thing as an illegitimate child. The child should never be held accountable for the actions of the parent. And since Christ, actually before Christ, there have been the questions of whether or not a woman had a child out of wedlock, and so I don't think we should ever use that term in describing children. Now, as far as cohabitation goes, I think that it's like people are trying to test drive a relationship, which doesn't work well. I think, I always was a true believer that you should have your place, I should have my place. We should see each other, and then, I go to my place, you go to your place. When we're ready to be in the same place, we probably need to actually make a commitment to be there. And if you're not willing to make that commitment, then you shouldn't do all the other things that go along with, with having a relationship that you aren't ready to commit to. It's like I used to say, you shouldn't have sex until you're ready to give up your life, or commit your life. And, because you can catch something that you can die from, create a child, or need to get married. And so if you aren't ready to have that level of responsibility, then you shouldn't be doing the things that cause you to have that level of responsibility. Cohabitation, and this worked well for some folks. Um, but it also, to me, is 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 cheating on the test, so to speak. Um, you put yourself in a position where you want all of the things that marriage brings without any of the commitment that marriage requires. And I think in that regard, um, you kind of shortchange yourself. Um, and what was the third part? It was cohabitation, illegitimacy, and
Single parenthood.
uh, pardon?
Single parenthood.
On single parenthood. Now, as far as single parents go, I have utmost respect for a single parent. Um, I had the opportunity for about the first 3 years of our marriage of pretty much being away from my husband because he was stationed elsewhere, and having a child that I served as single parent for was one of the most difficult things I've ever done. I'd never had a job where I worked as hard or loved as much. Um, but it was it it's an amazing amount of work to be a single parent. And so I don't think whether or not it's male or female, there are a lot of reasons why people are single parents. It doesn't have anything to do with not being married.
Right.
I certainly was married when I was a single parent. But that doesn't have anything to do with the amount of work and effort that goes into that, or the commitment of the parent. I think in some ways, single parenthood keeps the child from some things. There's some things that only your father can bring to you, only your mother can bring to you. And that's not to say that I don't know a lot of people who've been single parents who've done a tremendous job of raising children and whose children have not come out to be outstanding people. Our president, basically, was the result of a single parent household. So you can't say that that's the only criteria, but I think there's some things that you miss um, in not having both parents available. But I certainly don't want to look down on the parents, on single parents because of the job that they have to do, because it is a tremendously difficult task. And I think if more people knew how hard it was before they entered it, they might think a little bit more about whether or not that was the time and place to do that.
All right. All right. Since you gotta go, I guess we can finish this up later.
Larry,
Thank you.
sign
Let's go.
off?
All right. So how
So
about save this?
save this and then you can edit the rest together, I guess, this evening.
No, I'm saying how do I send it to YouTube?
It does it automatically as soon as you
It,
stop.
it
Stop.
stop broadcast. So I just hit stop broadcast and does it automatically.
Yes.
Okay.